Okay, so Be'ezras Hashem, Chevra, what we're continuing in the Torah of Rabbi Nachman tonight is we're going to choose one more short teaching along the way. We had a short teaching that gave us access to Tisha B'Av, to give us insight into the secret of transforming the Teku of the Kinos into Tikkun. And now we're going to look at a strange teaching in Torah Pei Hey in the second volume of Likutei Moharan, the 85th teaching, where Rabbi Nachman hints to a number of ideas. It's associative. It's a Torah that demands a lot of reference points, but I do believe that it's a Torah that will reveal to us a very potent idea in terms of how to tap into the secret of Nechama. So some of the ideas are going to be out there. Some of the ideas are going to seem foreign. But in the light of Rabbi Nachman being the type of tzaddik who's able to connect all different types of things, all different types of ideas into a singular line of thinking to illuminate a path of avoda for us, we're going to see how Rabbi Nachman lays out in front of us the avoda of Shabbos Nachamu, what it means to be comforted, what it means to be comforted, and not to be comforted in a way that we forget about the grief and that we forget about the mourning, but rather how we're able to tap into the comfort that exists within the destruction itself. So that instead of feeling that we have to run away from all of the things that have caused us that mournful feeling, instead, what Rabbi Nachman is going to show us, like all of the tzaddikim, is that it's within the very place of mourning that a person is going to be able to find the reorientation. Because the word Nechama, the first time that the place Nechama comes out in the Torah is Vayinachem Hashem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu changed his mind with regards to the nature of reality. By the end of Parshas Bereishis, Hashem said, wow, this experiment of creation was a failed thing, and I'm going to destroy it. Hashem changed his mind, Kavyachol. And so we see that Nechama, in truth, doesn't just mean comfort. What it actually means, it's an original context, is changing of the mind, how to change one's mind. And so we see that the orientation towards comfort is the ability to shift our thinking and to change the way that we thought about something that has happened. It's not to change that which has happened. It's not to pretend that that which has happened has not happened, but it's simply to learn how to look at that which happened in a different way. Nechama, comfort, comes when a person learns how to look at the circumstance of loss in a new way. And then we have the capacity of reflecting on the changing of the mind that enables me to see the goodness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the laughter of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that emerges from the Churban itself. And so these are the words of Rabbi Nachman in Torah Pei Hey in Likutei Moharan Tinyana. Egozim hanikraim luzim. So those nuts that are referred to as luzim, almonds are referred to as a luz. Lamed Vav Zayin. A luz is a word that's used to describe an almond. Heim roimzim lebechinas Leah. What these types of almonds hint to is the secret of Leah, the secret of the second wife, or really the first wife of Yaakov Avinu, Leah, Shehiba Oref. And the place of Leah, as we're going to see in a second, is found at the nape of the neck, at the back of the neck. Shehu Nukva Rishona, which is the first feminine counterpart of the individual, meaning to say, Yaakov Avinu first encountered the Nekeva in the secret of Leah. Va'achar kach nichnasim lebeis hamikdash, and only afterwards, by entering into that place in the neck, do we have the capacity of entering into the Beis Hamikdash, Shehu Bechinas, which is the Bechina of Yaakov Karu Beis Kel, that Yaakov referred to the place as Beis Kel. So first, let's pause on these few reference points that Rabbi Nachman is throwing at us to develop an understanding. So Rabbi Nachman is looking at a physical object, an almond, a nut that a person is eating. And instead of just eating for the sake of sustenance, Rabbi Nachman is contemplating what the nature of this actual food means. So Rabbi Nachman, there's two types of Torahs in Rabbi Nachman. There's Torah that starts all the way above, and then it has to come all the way down. And those are the tzimtzumim that Rabbi Nachman does in his Torah, bringing down massive ideas into conscious awareness. But then there's also Torahs that are going to begin from below and go all the way above. And those are the Torahs that begin with the contemplation of that which Rabbi Nachman was encountering in day-to-day reality. Physical entities in our lives, day-to-day experience can awaken a person to access the depth of Torah, just as the depth of Torah can awaken a person to experience. So here we're talking about a type of Torah that we can imagine Rabbi Nachman is looking at this almond. Rabbi Nachman is eating this almond, and he makes an association that the almond in Chazal is referred to as a luz, Now, this word luz immediately becomes a reference point it's a very powerful word because it represents various things. Two other areas where we see the word luz expressed is the notion that the human body is something that is destructible. The human body comes from matter, and anything that is built on matter will eventually disintegrate into nothingness. The body will go away. Nothing will be left. Except, say Chazal, there's a secret bone at the top of the shedra, at the top of the spine, and also at the bottom of the spine, and also at the middle of the spine, because this luz bone has various places. But that bone is called the luz bone, the etzem haluz. And the etzem haluz is referred to as the part of the spine that survives death. This is the part of the body, this is the part of the skeletal system that will remain even after death, which is indestructible in a physical way. And it's from this bone that Tchiyas HaMesim is going to take place. And Muva lahalacha in Shulchan Aruch, that when a person partakes of the Suda of Malava Malka, what they're doing is they're giving strength to this etzem haluz, to this luz bone, that this indestructible part of the body. And it makes sense, right? Because Motzei Shabbos is a secret that Shabbos continues to survive even after its death. And so too, the place that should be sustained by Motzei Shabbos is this place in the body, that point of connection between the spine, which represents the body, and the mind, where the mind has the ability to descend down into the body to illuminate it. That's referred to as the etzem haluz. And this is not just some strange idea. This has, unfortunately, throughout Jewish history, been needed to be used as an actual halachic precedent in terms of burying that which appears to be without remains. What do you do when you have piles of ashes, God forbid, when there's seemingly nothing left to be buried? Can you bury those ashes? And the Minchas Yitzchak and other poskim brought down that in accordance with the statement in Chazal, that there's an indestructible bone that exists even after death, referred to as the etzem haluz. So our belief is that there is something there that survives. There is something there that remains. The eye can't see it. Since when does the naked eye determine what the spiritual reality and the halachic framework looks at? So this inyan of luz, which is referred to as the almond, is also going to represent the inyan of the luz bone at the back of the neck, at the top of the spine, bottom of the head, which represents this point of connection, this tiny point within the body, which represents that in-between place where Tchiyas HaMesim is going to come from. And furthermore, another reference point to luz is that when Yaakov Avinu encounters in his journey towards the land of Canaan, when Yaakov Avinu encounters this place of Ulam Luz, where he encounters the dream of the ladder, where he comes to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above and below, below and above. In that place, we see that it's referred to as Luz. Ulam Luz. It was called the place of Luz. And Yaakov called it Beis El. So we have three things so far. You guys with me? We have three things so far. We have the almond, which is referred to as the Luz. We have this indestructible bone, which represents the transference between death and life and death, which is called the Etzem Haluz. And we have the city of Luz, which Yaakov Avinu names Beis El. Chazal go even further, and they say that there's an actual city of Luz. And in this city of Luz, it's surrounded by a wall, and there's no death in this city. There's no death in this city. And when the servants of David HaMelech had a death threat on them, David HaMelech sent them out there to that place in order to find relief, because in that place of Etzem HaLuz, in the city of Luz, there's no death, there's no destruction. And the Medrash tells us, how does one enter into the city of Luz, based on the Psukim in Nach, in the times of Yoshua? How does one enter into the city of Luz? So there was a Luz tree, there was an almond tree, there was a place of almonds, and it was a hallowed out bark. And there was a kusi, there was a non-Jew who came and pointed it to them, and they had to knock on this hollow ark of a tree, which became like a tunnel of sorts that they were able to go through in order to enter into the city of Luz. So we have these four reference points. We have the Luz bone, which represents the indestructible part at the nape of the neck, which represents the connection between above and below. We have the city of Luz, which is a place where there's no death. We have the secret of Yaakov Avinu encountering the city of Luz and transforming it into Beis El. Why is it Beis El? Because I saw the face of God and I lived. Penikel, the face of God. And it also corresponds to what? To the almond. Now, unsurprisingly, when people have tried to discover the place of this etzem haluz, the way it's been described as the pineal gland, as that point within the brain that survives death, at that point within the brain that serves as the interface between above and below, that it's almond-shaped. And so we see a connection between all of these ideas. So now, armed with those terms and conditions, let's enter back into the words of Rabbi Nachman. Egozim hanikram luzim. There are certain types of nuts that are referred to as luzim, and what they hint to is the aspect of Leah. So what does it mean that they hint to the aspect of Leah? Each and every person has two elements to them, two ways in which we relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. One is referred to as Leah, and one is referred to as Rachel. Each and every person can identify as connecting to Leah, and each and every person can identify as connecting to Rachel. The secret of Leah, say Chazal in the Zohar Kadosh, is the secret of almond iskasya, the world of concealment, that which is hidden away. Just like Leah, who was meant to be hidden away, just like Leah, whose eyes were swollen as a result of her struggling. And then you have Rachel, whose alma de isgalia, a revealed world. Each and every person, each and every yid, has two ways of relating to the world, two ways of relating to Shekhinah, two ways of relating to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way of Leah and the way of Rachel. Each and every one of us compose both of those. When I'm oriented to a Leah perspective, things are more hidden, things are more concealed, things are more humble. And when I'm relating to a Rachel type of experience, things are more revealed, things are more intense, things are more present. Obviously, Yaakov Avinu had to marry both of these women, who represented one full element, Rachel and Leah. And these are the two ways in which we encounter Hashem in the world. And I know we're wandering, but we'll get there, I promise. Famously, because Leah represents the world of concealment, and Rachel represents the world of revelation, so Leah is buried in Maras HaMachpelah, hidden away, in the place of Chevron, a place of hiddenness. And Rachel is buried Baderach. Rachel is meant to be buried in a revealed way. She's meant to be there. Because Rachel Mavacha al Banea, when a person wants to encounter Hashem in a revealed way, it's Kever Rachel. And which is why that for so long Kever Rachel was open, it was not covered over. And when the Gvirim, when Montefiore came and wanted to cover it over, the Mekubalim of Yerushalayim had a very hard time with this because Rachel is meant to be revealed. Leah is meant to be concealed. But once they understood that there was a suffix tumah there and that the ohel was to protect it, so they allowed Rachel to be concealed. So we see that Leah represents this space in our mind where our relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not revealed. I don't have words for it necessarily. I can't pinpoint exactly what it is. I can't define it to you, nor can I prove it to you. It operates in that place of concealment. So this luz, this egos, this luz, which represents the unbreakable part of the individual that will even survive death, that place of us that survives Yeyush, where is that in the spiritual framework of a person? It's the etzem haluz, which is the secret of Leah. It's the hidden world of a person. On a revealed level, if we die in our spiritual lives. If we fall, we fall. And we grapple with all of the struggling of that. In a hidden way, in a concealed way, when we fall, we connect ourselves to the light of Leah. We connect ourselves to the world of concealment, where we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everywhere with us. And that place has to be hidden because we can't operate with that mindset on a day-to-day basis. If we operated with the mindset that Hashem is there with me no matter what, even in the difficult, so then I wouldn't care so much about ensuring that I don't find myself in the difficult. It's only when I've fallen into the difficult place that I need to access that point of Leah within my mind, that point of almond iskasi, of recognizing that everything is good and everything survives even after destruction. So these egozim, which are nikraim luzim, heim roimzim lebechinas Leah, they hint to the aspect of Leah within the self. They hint to the element of that indestructible point of concealment within the mind, that almond-shaped part of the brain that is perpetually connected to the Rabbeinu Shalom no matter what. Shehi be'oiref, says Rabbi Nachman, this place is going to be found in the neck. The etzem haluz is found in the neck. The tefillin, the dalet and the mem of tefillin, that which represents connectivity in spite of all distance, that finds itself right at the nape of the neck. That's the place where Leah is found. That's the place where the etzem haluz is found. Shehi nukva rishona. That's the first place that we connect to. Yaakov Avinu marries Leah before Rachel, even though he wanted to marry Rachel first. Why? Because according to sensibility, I want to connect with something that's revealed. I want to connect in a way that I feel something being connected. I want to see things built. But the danger of that is that if the first taste of a relationship is built on success, so then I'll come to, God forbid, think that my relationship is dependent upon success, which would mean that if I'm losing, which is again the language of lose, if I'm losing, so then I'm not connected. So the problem with connecting first and foremost to a revealed connection with Hashem is that when I'm not in a state of revelation, then I'm not connected. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Masavev, that Leah should be Yaakov Avinu's first wife, is the secret that first and foremost, you connect with the undying belief that I am connected no matter what, whether I feel it or whether I don't feel it, whether it's revealed or whether it's concealed. Once I affirm that unbroken chain of connectivity, even in places of concealment, which is the secret of Leah, then I can go into developing the relationship with Rachel, which is where I base my strength based on what I'm good at. Because once I've based my relationship on the secret of Leah, on that place of concealment, which is not dependent on anything at all, so then when the successes of my life fall away from the realm of Rachel, I'm not empty-handed again. I'm not falling apart, but rather I can find relief within that hidden place of Leah, which is represented too by the back of the neck. That hidden place that when Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to see the face of Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem said, you cannot see my face. You cannot always win. You could see the back. You could see the knot of tefillin, Chazal say. You guys with me on this so far? Let's go weiter. So we have these egozim which hint to the luz, which is that hidden place within the mind that represents the secret of surviving destruction, which is exactly what Shabbos Nachamu is about. Shabbos Nachamu is not about denying the fact that there was destruction. It's revealing that we survived the destruction. We survived death. That's referred to as the Oiref, and that's referred to as the Nukva Rishona, Yaakov Avinu's first counterpart, Adam Arishon's first counterpart, that place of connection by way of concealment. And all of this is the aspect of, and then once we connect to that place, once we connect to the Etzem Haluz, once we connect to that unbreakable element of ourselves, then we can enter into the Beis HaMikdash. Then a person can transfer in, then a person can enter into the place of Kedusha. Only when I realize that I can survive destruction, only when I realize that there's an Etzem Haluz that survives the seemingly destruction of it, only then can I find access into the Beis HaMikdash, which is the aspect of Yaakov Karu Beis El. Yaakov Avinu encounters the town of Luz, meaning to say Yaakov Avinu encounters that secret of Leah. Yaakov Avinu encounters that secret of finding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in concealment, finding HaKadosh Baruch Hu in places of hiddenness. And only once he's encountered that place, and only once he's uncovered that secret, indestructible point of connectivity that exists within the heart of each and every Yid, which is sustained by the meal of Malava Malka, which is the mournful joy that we feel when we lose the Neshama Yasera, yet continue to find HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our lives in the incoming week. Only once we've understood that reality of almond Iskasya, only then can Yaakov Avinu enter into Beis HaMikdash and call it Beis Kel, which is a secret of seeing the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not just the back of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Pni Kel. V'zehu sheperish Rashi, and this is what Rashi describes in Shoftim, where we describe the entrance into that city of Luz by banging on that empty, hollowed out tree. Shederech Luz nichnasim lebeis El. This is exactly what Rashi says, that you go through the almond tree, through that secret of Luz, through that secret of indestructibility at the core of the individual self, and only then can you enter into the secret of Beis Kel. Because if I try and go to Beis Kel first, if I try and enter into the Beis HaMikdash first, then I might come to think that I belong in the Beis HaMikdash because I deserve to be in the Beis HaMikdash. And the moment I begin to feel that I deserve to be in the Beis HaMikdash is where I start fearing that I'm undeserving of being in the Beis HaMikdash. Because if I could be deserving, I could be undeserving. And if I could be undeserving, then avada I'm undeserving. And then I take myself out of Beis HaMikdash because now it's dependent on something. The secret of Beis HaMikdash is that first and foremost, I have to go through that place of luz, through that place of the indestructibility of the bond of connectivity that exists no matter what. It doesn't need to be revealed in order to exist. It's a secret of Leah, which is Amid Kasya. Only then can I healthily enter into the Beis HaMikdash. This is the secret of Ve'eschanan and Moshe Rabbeinu, first and foremost, not being able to enter into Eretz Yisrael, and only later on in the future through us entering into Eretz Yisrael. Because had Moshe Rabbeinu succeeded in the first place, then we would have thought that, oh my gosh, maybe Hashem could only be found in places of success. But in the secret of the Eschanan, which is the secret of Moshe Rabbeinu, continuing to daven even though he fails, continuing to hope even though there's hopelessness, he uncovers the secret of the unconditional nature of the relationship. And from there, we can go into Beis HaMikdash. From there, we can go into Beis Kel. And this is the secret of Nachamu, Nachamu. The secret of Nachamu, Nachamu, the doubled comfort that comes to Klal Yisrael in times of concealment. Shtei pa'amin Nachamu, Nachamu times 2. The word Nachamu is the gematria of 104. When you double 104, it spells out Kadkod. Kadkod is the nape of the neck. Kadkod is that place that rests in the back of the neck. That place where the tefillin rests, that place of the city of Luz, that place of the Luz bone. That's where the Nechama comes from. It's also the gematria of Yitzchak, because Yitzchak represents this very idea as well. Like we saw in Torah Samach Daled, Yitzchak represents what? The secret that the Tzimtzum is Megala something. That Tzimtzum reveals something. So too, the Etzem Haluz reveals that even within death, there's an element of life. And this was Yitzchak Avinu's life, that on the one hand, Yitzchak Avinu, we say, Afar Munach al Gabe HaMizbeach, that the ashes of Yitzchak Avinu are sitting on the Mizbeach. But on the other hand, we see that Yitzchak Avinu walks down from the mountain. Zok the Heilige Chedush Arim, whose name is Yitzchak Meir, meaning to say the light of Yitzchak, that is the Gluros being misgala and revealed to be the light of Mashiach. He says, what's funny about Yitzchak? There's nothing funny about Yitzchak. Yitzchak is severe. Yitzchak is trauma. Yitzchak is brokenness. Yitzchak is death. Yitzchak is concealment. Yitzchak is all of the difficult things. What's funny? And Zak the Heilige Chedush Arim, he says, what's funny is as follows. On the one hand, he died on the Mizbeach. On the other hand, he walked down the mountain alive and well. That's the secret of his name, Ketz Chai. He's alive and dead at the same time. And there's nothing funnier than that impossible paradox. The secret of the Jewish people, who we don't live before death, we have survived death. As the Heilige Vilna Gaon points out in one of my favorite teachings, I want to read it out loud. However, just by a nod of heads, are you guys with me to some element so far? Nice. Okay, so that's enough for me. So listen to what the Vilna Gaon says. The Vilna Gaon says in Safed Tzniusa, writes as follows: Ki me'eis shecharav habayis. From the moment that the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Yatsa ruchenu ateres roshenu. We died. Our neshama left us. Klal Yisrael died. V'nish'aru rak anachnu, and the only thing that remained was us. Hu haguf, meaning the body itself. Shela below nefesh, with no vitality. We're a body in a grave. V'yitzia l'chutz la'aretz, and being kicked out of Eretz Yisrael and being sent to chutz la'aretz. Hu hakever, that's the grave. That's the grave. V'rima misoveves aleinu, and the worms are surrounding us. V'ein bi'adenu lahatzil, and we have no ability to save ourselves. Hein ha'akum ha'oichlim basrenu, the nations of the world which devour our flesh. Umikol makom, but nevertheless, even after death, hayu chaburos liyeshivos gedolos, there were big yeshivos, there were still pockets of life. Ad shenirkav habasar v'ha'atzmus, until the flesh and the bones disintegrated. Shoah, all of the things that happened. V'nefazru pizor achar pizor, and the ashes have been scattered, scattering after scattering. Umikol makom hayu adayin ha'atzamos kayamos. Nevertheless, the bones still existed. Shehin tamidei chachamim shebi Yisrael, which are those who learn Torah and Klal Yisrael. Ma'amidei haguf, those who give sustenance to the body. Ad shenikrivu ha'atzmos, until the bones themselves were destroyed. V'lo nishar ella tarva rekev me'itanu, to the degree that only the irreducible remainder, that secret of the etzem haluz, that part that survives destruction, it remains. V'na'asa afar shacha la'afar nafshenu, and we descended down to the dust with no life force other than that impossible tiny speck. And now, says the Gra, where are we? Va'anachnu mekavim ata l'tchias hamesim. All we're doing now is hoping for tchias hamesim. Hisna'ari me'afar kumi, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should allow us to stand up from the afar. V'ya'are ruach mimaro malenu, and to send down a ruach, vitality and breath from above. We typically think that tchias hamesim is something that we think about when it comes to our loved ones, or our ancestors, or the tzaddikim who have passed away. Zok the Heilige Gra, it's what we're doing for ourselves. To a certain degree, we're already dead. After Churban Abayis, the neshama is mufrad from the guf. Yitzchak Avinu's offer is munach al hamizbeach. All of the pain of Tisha B'Av is still there in existence. But nevertheless, the secret of Nachamu is the secret of the survival that exists afterwards. And that's hinted to in the back of the neck, that hidden point of connection of the Etzem Haluz, which becomes the entry into that place in my mind of true Das, which is becoming fundamentally aware that all that exists is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in the Misa, in the Chaim, in the Churban, and in the Geula. And that's the secret of the kadkod. That's the secret of the back of the neck, which is also the gematria Yitzchak. Shu b'chinas oref, which is that place of the neck where the etzem aluz is, where the secret of Leah and concealment is. She'al yada nichnasim lebeis el. And it's specifically through that place, through the confrontation with that place where nothing remains, and we're forced to realize that, oh my God, something remains even when nothing remains. It's through that secret of that which remains after nothing remains that allows us to enter into Beis Hamikdash, into the secret of Beis Kale, of Peni Kale, of seeing the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'zehu shlosha shavuos. And this is the secret of the 3 weeks, including Tisha B'Av. Shehem esrim ve'echad yom shebein hamitzarim. They're the 21 days of Bein hamitzarim. Ukenegdo be'ilan luz. As the Gemara tells us that the luz tree, the almond, and the tree, it takes 21 days to regenerate itself. Those 21 days of the regeneration of life that correspond to those 21 days of mourning. Because on every level of mourning and every level of loss and every level and feeling that things have fallen apart and things are destroyed, there is an equal counterpart of the awareness that Netzach Yisrael lo yishaker, and that there's no Misa, and that nothing actually dies, and everything is just waiting for Tchias HaMesim. B'shvil zeh noagim le'echol beitza besuda hamafsekes b'Tisha B'Av. It's for this reason that we have the tradition to eat an egg by the Suda HaMafsekes. The egg is usually representative of what we do in times of mourning. It's the meal that we eat in times of mourning. Why is that? Why is that the minhag? Ki habeitza nigmeres be'esrim ve'echad yom. An egg also develops in 21 days. The egg also represents this rejuvenative process that takes place at the valley of death itself, and that allows for the revitalization of life to come about afterwards. That secret of 21, that secret of the 21 days of Bein HaMitzarim, the secret of the 21 days of the Etzem Haluz, the secret of the 21 days represented by the egg itself, that represents the secret of Eheke, Ana Zamin Lemeheve, as Rabbi Nachman points out in Torah Vav. The name Aleph Hey Yud Hey represents the secret, I am not in existence yet, but I will emerge into existence when I center myself on the here and now. Ana Zamin Lemeheve, that power of 21, the gematria of Vadai, Havadai Shemo Kenti Lasso. Specifically within the valley of Safek, a person affirming that secret of Vadai, of Tchias HaMesim. The egg develops in 21 days, as Chazal have told us, that a tarnagol lays an egg every 21 days, and corresponding to that reality of the regenerative process of birth that emerges from destruction is the 21 days that it takes for this almond tree to develop, because that 21 days of the almond tree reminds me of the Etzem Haluz, that indestructible part of my mind. And again, there is nothing more relevant than this Nakuda. As esoteric as it might sound, the secret of the Etzem Haluz is no longer a secret. It is the only way that we survive. It is the secret of having fallen apart and dying from the previous moment, and any moment that is a descent away from what I previously felt is considered a death, the Zohar Kadosh says. Kol man dinachas midarge delay ikre misa. And so we have to be opening ourselves up to the secret of the luz every second, the secret that I survived death. I survived the fall. I survived what I thought I couldn't survive. My spiritual consciousness remains even after I've done the thing that I feel would destroy my spiritual consciousness. My best self remains. The afar that's hisnat rime afar kumi, that's what remains. V'zehu etzem haluz sheyesh ba'oiref ha'adam, says Rabbeinu. This is the secret of the luz bone that a person has by the back and the nape of their neck. Sheyeshaer acher kilyon haguf, that will remain after the destruction and the disintegration of the body. Umimena yischadesh binyan haguf b'shas tchias hamesim. And it's specifically from there that the body is going to rejuvenate. Zok the Heilige Ramchal, If this exists in the self, it has to exist within the world as well. And where is that? Well, where do we have the death and the destruction of something, yet the irreducible remainder that persists? It's the secret of the Kotel HaMa'aravi. The Kotel HaMa'aravi is the Etzem Haluz. It's the Kusta de Chiyusa. It's the indestructible life force that exists after the Beis HaMikdash, and it's the place that the Beis HaMikdash is going to be oile from. Ma'aravi specifically, the western wall, the Ma'arav, the western part of our minds, the western part of our skull is actually the back of our heads. That place where we're mevatel ourselves, betachlis. Seeing something means understanding it, thinking that I have a grasp. When I see something by way of the backside, that secret of you can't see my face, says Hashem, you can only see the back. That's the secret of Amuna L'mala Mitam B'das. That's the Kotel HaMa'aravi. That's the Etzem Haluz that survives. And that's the thing that's going to bring about Tchias HaMesim. V'zehu Iker Nachmasenu. This is the source of our Nachama. This is why Nachamu is the gematria of Kadkod, which is the Oref, which is the place where the Etzem Haluz is found, which is the secret of almond Iskasya, which is the secret of surviving death. This is the secret of our Nachama. B'chinas Nachamu Kanisker La'el. The secret of Nachamu. Ki al haguf ne'emar. When it comes to the body, we say Shifchi ad haboiker, Shu eis hatchia. That we say about the body that it will wait. It will wait until the time of rejuvenation, of regeneration. And it will sit waiting, anticipating the morning. V'hine boiker, v'hine hileya. And the next pasuk by Yaakov Avinu, it says, and it was the morning, and it turned out it was Leah. So there's a Gzeira Shava that Rabbeinu is making, that the secret of Tchias HaMesim, which is Shifti ad haboiker, allowing the body and the irreducible strength of the body, the Etzem Haluz, to rejuvenate itself in the time of Tchias HaMesim, can be directly connected to the secret of Vihine Baboiker, Vihine Hileya. At the moment of Tchias HaMesim, what we're going to see, the thing that helped us survive in death itself, in the Yerida itself, is the secret of Leah, is the secret of the almond Iskasya, that I can connect to that hiddenmost place and cry out to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of Eine Leah Rachos, the Midah of Anava, the Midah of Bittul, the Midah of Bina, that place of Leah. That's the secret of Tchias HaMesim. That which remains after that has fallen apart. Hainu Etzem Haluz, the secret of the Etzem Haluz. Hanizka La'el, that was referred to earlier. Sha'al Yada Nizbane Haguf, because the body is going to rejuvenate itself from this place. Ubeshvil Shal Kol Kavnaso Shal Yaakov Haya Beshvil Rachel. But because the main focus of Yaakov Avinu was Rachel, the main focus of the tzaddik is to live in that place of Beis HaMikdash, is to not live in that place of Ulam Luz, but rather to live in that place of Beis El, that Yaakov Avinu refers to it as afterwards. The secret of Rachel, the secret of Almond Iskalia, the secret of being connected in a revealed way. Avada, that's the main desire. Avada, we want to be alive. Avada, we want Chayei HaChayim. Avada, we want to feel connection in every moment. But the only way towards that place is by way of the city of Luz, is by way of the city of the 21 days of Bein HaMitzarim that show us that we can survive even without the Beis HaMikdash, because we carry the Beis HaMikdash in our das. And because the essential thing that Yaakov Avinu wanted was really Rachel, Nemar b'nei Rachel, it's hinted to also in the children of Rachel, the secret of Yosef, which is ulakadkoid nezer echav. Ulakadkoid nezer echav. The kadkoid, the neck of Yosef. Meaning to say, Yaakov is highlighting the fact that the main thing has always been the kadkoid. The main thing has always been the oref. The main thing has always been that indestructible place of Luz. The ability to enter in properly into the Beis HaMikdash, without fear of being kicked out, without fear of being deserving or not deserving, but to face HaKadosh Baruch Hu, levaker behecholo. But because we can't do that without going through the city of Leah and all of the concealment, so then we find ourselves going through this process. And therefore, this process of Lakadkot is hinted by Rachel also, because that's the main purpose. Going through the concealment, finding Hashem in the concealment, is not to learn to celebrate the concealment. Adrab, it's not to learn how to survive in death. It's learn how to be patient in death. To learn how to be patient, to be mitzapet Tchias HaMesim. Tchias HaMesim, Leshem Shabbat V'Chaloma says, is not considered something that a person has to believe in, because it's something that is happening perpetually on every molecular level of existence at every single moment. Everything is perpetually rejuvenating itself. The birurim are perpetually taking place. The Shviras HaKelim happened, and from that point on, everything is being mitbayer. Aliyos ein kates. Everything is alive, moving forward, evolving upwards. And therefore, Tchias HaMesim is not something that's going to be happening. It's not some future point, some Yeyud Ha'atidi in the language of the Leshem that's going to arrive, but rather it's an event that's taking place right here, right now, which is why we have the active principle of Tchias HaMesim in Shemona Esrei, and why in Shemona Esrei there's basically 5 references in the second bracha, which again comes from Birchas Yitzchak, surprising place to talk about the rejuvenation of life, specifically from that place of death, but that's the secret of Yitzchak Avinu, Kates Chai. That's the laughter of Yitzchak Avinu, the laughter at the Malach HaMavos, forcing the Malach HaMavos to give us its gifts. B'chol ma'oidecha, with all of ourselves, as the Zohar HaKadosh describes in this week. Tov ze malach ra, tov ze malach tov, ma'od ze malach hamisa. Malach hamisa, that place, the Malach HaMavos, that place of the awareness of destruction, gives shape to the growth that's going to take place afterwards. Binyamin ksiv, and it's hinted to in Binyamin also, ubein ketafav shachein, that you shall rest between the shoulders. That place of the etzem haluz where the tefillin goes is between the shoulders, that place of the stress that we feel. The tension is very often felt on the shoulders. We feel our responsibilities most in our shoulders, in the posture of our necks, in the posture of our spines. Because we don't want to walk with upright spines, yet we don't want to walk with bent spines. We have to learn the secret of being koira and moedim, of living a life of gratitude that enables a person to have healthy shoulders, like the fourth beggar in Rabbi Nachman's tale of 13 beggars, the crooked shouldered beggar, the hunchback beggar rather. I'm sorry, the fifth beggar. The fifth beggar is the secret of empathy, how to tolerate things, how to hold things. The secret of finding chayim within Mavas, the secret of finding Nachama within the destruction itself. And the Remez and Rabbi Nachman says, Sha'al Yedei Bechinas Leah, to hint to the fact that through the connection to this concealed place within the mind, Shehi Rishona, which is the first place that we have to first and foremost connect to Hashem, only then Yachol Lavo LeBechinas Rachel. Only then do we have the ability of coming close to the Bechina of Rachel. Kadkod v'ketefav, the neck and the shoulders, are the aspect of the etzem haluz, which is why oiref, the neck, is the gematria of Shin Nun, 350, which is Rosh Tevos Shabbos Nachamu, a remez to Nachama. So I want to bring this to a place that you're not going to believe. And I want to read first and foremost, give me a second, Chevra, because I want to read the words of Rabbi Nassan. Rabbi Nassan does not talk about this Torah in many places. But listen to what Rabbi Nassan says in Hilchos Beitza, in the laws of eggs, in Halacha Hey Os Aleph. Ki isa b'Likutei Tanyana. It's explained in Likutei Maharan Tanyana Siman Pei Hey, what we just went through. And he explains how the eggs represent this rejuvenative process, which represents the 21 days, which correspond to the 21 days of Bein HaMetzarim, where we're mourning over the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, but specifically through remembering the egg and remembering the rejuvenation process of that tree of the Luz, so we merit comfort. And this is the aspect of Shabbos Nachamu, etc., because the Nachama comes from the awareness of the Etzem HaLuz, which is the belief that even though things are destroyed, we'll grow. V'zehu, also this is the aspect of the Beitza, says Rabbi Nachman, Ayin Sham. Zakt Rabbi Nassan, Ulachara Tamua, this whole thing seems very strange. This whole teaching seems very strange. Me'achar shaha Beitza b'chinas luz, meramez ala Nachama, if the egg, which is connected to the Etzem HaLuz, and that indestructibility, hints to the Nachama, hints to the secret of the comfort that comes about by way of looking differently at death, learning to see the secret of surviving death, that there's something that always remains, always, no matter what the fall is, something remains in order to reawaken and rekindle the original love. So then Rabbi Nassan says, if these things represent the Nechama, madua hem daika nigmarim be'esrim ve'echad yom, shemarames al ha'avelu shemisavlim esrim ve'echad yom shebein ha'mitzarim. Then why in the world would these elements of comfort and these elements of the indestructibility of the spirit and the renewal of the spirit at every moment, no matter where it's fallen, why would they be hinting to the 21 days which correspond to days of destruction? And furthermore, we said this is why we eat the Beitza at the beginning of Tisha B'Av, at the Suda HaMafsekes. Theoretically, if the Beitza is representing some Nechama, it should come about afterwards. Everyone hear the question that Rabbi Nassan is asking? Rabbi Nassan is asking a question. He's saying, we just said that this whole concept of the etzem haluz, this whole concept of the indestructibility of the self, that which survives even the worst thing, the secret belief that a person can do it no matter what, and the secret of an ava she'ena tali b'davar, a love that is not dependent on anything. So that's hinted to in the egg. The egg, which rejuvenates itself every 21 days, which corresponds to the luz tree, which takes 21 days, because the etzem haluz represents that indestructibility. So we see that the indestructibility of the luz and the beitza is meant to give us a sense of nechama that comes about after the destruction when we realize we're still breathing. And so says Rabbi Nassan, if that's the case, then why is the 21-day process and cycle of the egg or the 21-day process of the luz tree significant? Because the only other thing that's 21 days here is Bein HaMitzarim, which represents the mourning itself. Not the nechama, but the mourning, the destruction itself. And furthermore, the egg is eaten by the Suda HaMafsekes, which represents the mourning, the destruction itself, and not the nechama. So basically, Rabbi Nassan is pointing out is that your symbol, Rabbi Nachman, the symbol that you've just given us for the secret of the belief in the survival of the self after any element that we think is destruction, is seemingly hinting to the destruction itself. It's referring to the 21 days of mourning. That makes sense? That's the question. Rabbi Nassan is going to reveal a really important yesod here. Again, the question is, why is the fixing hinted to in the breaking? Shouldn't the fixing be hinted to in something completely separate from breaking? You're telling me the fixing is the egg, the fixing is the luz, but at the same point, the luz is already present in the 21 days of mourning. So if it's the fixing, then how can it be present in mourning? And if it's in mourning, how can it be the fixing? But the deepest secret of all is that it's from the blemish itself that the cure emerges, and from the forest itself comes the handle for the axe. Zakt Rabbi Nassan. Rabbi Nassan says, Ach kol zeh moire umerames la'adam, all of this reveals to a person she'i efshar l'shum adam bechlal ubeprat, that there is no individual, collectively speaking, generally speaking, no ability for any person, lavo el hatikva tova, to arrive at the secret of hope and nechama. Ki im al yedei tsar v'yisurin umeriris gadol shehu bechinas avelis shemes avlim umetzarim umerarim al churban habmikdash. The nechama will not come about without first and foremost encountering that place of luz. That place of luz, of almost coming to the place of thinking, I can't do it. I don't have power, I'm powerless, I can't do anything. I have no power whatsoever. The yisur and the difficulty of coming to that place of that suffix, whether perhaps I can't come forth from this. Perhaps I can't come back to the face of HaKadosh Baruch Hu after this. Perhaps I can't rectify myself after this. And Rabbi Nachman is saying, in the lens of Rabbi Nassan, is that the only way to the secret of the indestructibility of the self and the neshama, which is the secret of nechama, is by way of the route and the course that feels like I'm being destroyed. Ki alecha hargeinu kol hayom, a person dies every day for the Rebbeinu Shalom. Every day that we try and have kavana, every day that we try and think good thoughts, every day that we try and push away negativity and center our minds and the das of knowledge of Hashem is mamish a nes nigla. As Rabbeinu said, that the biggest nes will be emuna in the last generation. As the Heilige Choizem Eliblin says, "Ve'eschanan el Hashem ba'esahi lemor." Ba'esahi is a language of nekeva, and nekeva is the representation of concealment. The time of ikvas of the Mashiach. The only thing that's valuable in the time of ikvas of the Mashiach is the chanina, the recognition of powerlessness. I can't do this on my own, Rebbeinu Shalom. And only when I realize I can't do it on my own that I find myself in that 21-day process of Bein HaMitzarim and the Suda HaMafsekes. And all of the cuts and the bruises that come about from those 21 days, from within that experience itself, I will come to understand the secret of Nachamu. That's the secret of Yitzchak Avinu. That's the secret of the laughter of Yitzchak and the laughter of Rabbi Akiva. Zak the Heilige Rabbi Nassan. He says that it's only through the difficulty that we have, and again, what we've spoken about before, Chazal have the most liberal understanding of what suffering means. I expect 3 coins and I take out 2, that's enough for me to say I've been through Yisurin. Halavai, a person should not have to go through any more actual Yisurin. Metzius itself is the Yisurin. As Rabbeinu said, there's no world, there's Gehenna. It is the Spitz Yisurin. But as the Heligat Tzadikim of Ishbitz and Radzin said, Chazal said, we say this on Yom Kippur, Nimnu v'gamru, noyach la'adam shalei nivra yoter mishanivra. It would have been more pleasant for a person not to have been created than to be created. But now that they're created, now do your thing. Zok the Heligat Ishbitzer, he says, let's pause first, because this is Aleph. It says noach lo la'adam. It says it would have been easier for the individual not to have been created than have been created. That everybody agrees with. Obviously, how could it not be? This is the stira and heart of the Ramchal in the beginning of Mesilas Yesharim also. On the one hand, the tachlis is tainug, pleasure. On the other hand, the world is best described as an already existing battle with bullets whizzing by your head from both sides. And so the secret is that it's specifically through this place of uncovering the light of struggle and the willingness to push forward with that mariris do we come to uncover the secret of the tainug that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us. Aval gam kemish avlim umararim hatzar v'achurban ha'ikr hu al kach sherechoikim kol kach begalusenu me'avinu shabashamayim. The main problem, the main source of the cry and the exile and the avelus is that we don't have the alignment that we need with our Creator, with the Master of the universe. Again, what Hashem does in His world is Hashem's reality. What Hashem does with us in our lives is Hashem's hashgacha. Our bechira is the way that we look at reality, the way that we gaze outwards. And by way of looking outwards, we also have the capacity, the miracle of informing reality itself. That's the gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave to the Jewish people. So this Nakuda of bechira that we have is that within the difficulty, we can come to realize that if I were connected to Hashem the way I needed to be connected to Hashem right now, if I had the true Nachama of the alignment of knowing that I am exactly where I need to be at this point in history, and nobody before me, nobody after me will be exactly who I am in this moment, and that there's a job that only I have to do at this particular moment, and all that exists is this particular day, and this hour, and this minute, and this second, and this moment, and the now of the Achshav, and in that place tapping into the light of Adil Yada and drawing down the light of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When a person has the capacity of doing that, then we come to realize that all of the difficulty emerges from the fact that we're distant in our minds from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that it's Rachok Mimeni Menachem Eshev Nafshi, I'm far from Das. But that's not the place to stay. The place to stay is in the secret of Nechama, says Rabbi Nassan. The place to go is to the secret of Nechama, to the secret of the Etzem Aluz, to the secret of the indistinguishable flame of the Neshama. That's where you always have to return back to. But the only way to get there properly is to go through that process of the grinding, the chewing, the shane of Shabbos Nachamu, the teeth of Shabbos Nachamu, the grinding things down so that we can properly process them. And in order to survive this process, says Rabbi Nassan, and someone who wants to actually go through this necessary process, going through the ringer, going through the secret of Leah to Rachel, from Ulam Luz to the secret of Pinikel, if someone wants to live true life, tzarech lekabel la'atzmo eitzos mizeh shebekol hamarirus v'atzar v'yisurin she'alav alav beprat be'ikar ha'yisur ma'amitim she'em yisur ha'nefesh v'agolus ha'gadol shu'rachoykel kol kach mishamayim b'chol ma shemitzapim lasos miratov miskaber hara b'chol pam. A person who wants to learn the secret of process, this person who wants to learn the secret of how to function in this world, they'll look to the person who struggled the most and who cultivated the deepest mindset of processing that struggling. We take the advice of those who came before us, the tzaddikim who understand the struggle, who give language to the struggle, the tzaddikim who had the kalim, who descended down into Gehenna for us, the list neshamos that will find themselves in Gehenna, and who gave us the language of the problem itself, not just the language of the cure. We know the mariris that the tzaddikim amitim went through. Rabbeinu, the Ramchal, Moshe Rabbeinu, Rashbi, Arizal, Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh, all of the tzaddikim hamitim went through this. We look towards those who went through this and gave us eyes to see through the process. A tzaddik who says that they haven't struggled is nicht a tzaddik. It's impossible. There are stories abound about somebody claiming that this person was such a big neshama, he never struggled, and the other tzaddik saying, God forbid, don't say such a thing about this person. Don't lie. I have nothing to talk to you about if you think that's imaginable. Each and every person goes through this process of trying to find that nekuda tova, of that etzem haluz, of uncovering the language of Rabbi Nachman, who gave language to the struggle. Rabbi Nachman's Torah is the Ikar Nechama. The Torah of the Baal Shem Tov is the Ikar Nechama. Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, the secret of Yitzchak, the secret of the Torah of the Arizal, the Torah of the Rebbe, the Torah of Yitzchak Avinu. This is the trufa, the Nachamu, Nachamu, Ami, the secret of Pnimius HaTorah. Pnimius HaTorah specifically that gives shape to the necessity of going by way the city of Luz in order to arrive at Beis El. Going by way of Leah in order to arrive at Rachel, going by way of concealment in order to arrive at comfort. And with that, Rabbi Nassan answers up the kasha. Avada the Beitza and the Luz, which represent redemption. Avada, they represent the Tachlis, which is to live a good life, a clarified life. But they still contain within themselves the very real hints that hint towards the exile, the 21 days of mourning, because it's only the process of mourning that brings about the secret of redemption that comes out of the mourning itself. And those 21 days of Avelus are transformed into 21 days of the Shem Eke, of the Anazamin Lemeheve, the secret of Ratzav Veshov Kamare HaBesek, the secret of Toravav from Rabbi Nachman, and that's the Igeras HaTshuva. And then we enter into the secret of Uman, into the secret of Echad Shushtaim, Uman B'Yushalayim, Uman, all of the different ways of a person connecting to the light of the Rebbeinu Shleilam, to the two machanos, to the two ways of connecting to the light of Pnimius HaTorah, Be'ezras Hashem.